What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Casual Podcast with your boy Brian, the Casual Brian. We have a yet another guest. I mean, it's almost like we are a actual podcast. I am so excited. Today's guest is one of my good friends. Two goods means he's amazing and great. His name is Ryan Nach from Knock It Out Music. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, what's good, Brian? Thanks for having me on the casual.
It is my pleasure because you know how we do. We're coming to you live from Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. The YouTube, as they say in the streets. Also, if you're listening on the podcast, we are on Spotify and Apple Music. So, you know what? I think there's other places, but I don't know. That's the only place I'm listening to podcasts. If there's more, I don't know. So maybe you can drop a comment and let me know. Brian, there's other places to listen to podcasts. But with that being said, let's get right into it. Ryan, what's up, brother?
Hey, how's it going, Brian? Appreciate you having me on here. I'm great, man. It's a rainy Friday, but we're getting stuff done, you know?
Yeah, it is. We were supposed
Because
to do this in person, but I wasn't really feeling that New York rainy trek.
no,
You know what I
nobody
mean?
is. But at the same time, it forced us to stay inside and do work,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's
I
not really
really
work.
appreciate you being flexible with me and like doing it like remote because I know you were really looking forward to seeing me and
Nah,
just getting that quality time. It's okay, Ryan. It's okay. You
I,
can you
I don't know. I don't know if I was looking forward to seeing you in person that much. This is fine.
I understand. I don't blame you. I I was hoping that we could go out afterwards at least and
Nah,
maybe grab a drink or something. We're gonna do it.
what?
Please work with me next week. Make some time. I'm not gonna fold. I promise you. I'm
All
gonna come
right.
through the studio and see this setup. I can't believe I haven't been by yet.
It's
How
okay.
long have you been in there?
Since June.
Since June. I am a
Well,
terrible.
I moved into the studio that I'm at on 21st. When the hell did I? June, but I didn't officially. I didn't move my residence. I live on the Upper East Side now. I didn't move until August, so I was
Oh, the
like just
Upper
trying
East
to get.
Side.
Yeah, a little bougie. I was trying to get. I was trying to get my studio set up and then, move my personal residence. It was a lot to do both of those things at the same time, as you might imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
well, as you might imagine, because you're a work from home guy too. I've been a work from home guy. I think a lot of people in our business have been work from home guys. If they didn't start out that way, they definitely ended up that way. It's just very convenient, um, depending upon where you live in the country. And I was that person when I was in Jersey, but I had a unique opportunity to take advantage of, just like an increase in the workflow and a strategic partnership with the people here at Plush who own the space that I'm leasing from. And so it just made moving to Manhattan a no-brainer and easy. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to do that. So a little
Awesome.
different being like having the separate space to work and separate uh, space to live.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I try to I have a very uh small apartment which I'm very thankful for because we have a great deal on the rent. So it's actually an asset for us, but I try to utilize different rooms. You know what I mean? Like I try to
Yeah.
have like office space, relaxing space, and then my personal bedroom, which is really my wife's room, but our personal bedroom where I just try to chill. That's really just for sleeping. You know what I mean? And it really helps me to kind of balance. I do shift my mindsets when I'm in this office, especially now that the desk is set up. It's like, oh, it's like. But you know what I want to talk about before we get into everything? I was thinking how far we've come from when we met at that meetup.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, let's just talk about the fact that we met at a meetup.
I think you are the only relationship that I actually made or connection or however you want to think about it that I actually made from those meetups. You know what I mean? No work, no I can't say no work because I've worked with you. So, but it's so funny. And it was just so funny when we met. We were both kind of like, "Okay, well, I don't know about the rest of this, but this guy seems like he gets it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think you and maybe Wellington, who I work a lot with, he's like my primary working partner. Um, but yeah, like those people that the people that I mean, I guess you have to imagine with an app and or website just called meetup.com, and you're just going to get a lot of people looking for connection, most of whom it's like, all right, cool. They're looking for a quick something or other. Everybody's there for a purpose. And you're not going to always find the best connections there. And occasionally, you find something of value. Um,
We had to pay
but
for that, right?
I mean, I think every event was different.
I
But
think the one with Lynette specifically, we had to pay like $20 to go.
yes, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Complete
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah,
Hey,
that's
pay me
crazy.
$20 to listen to your shit, for an opportunity so I can make money from it. But
I mean, it was such a complete ripoff. I mean, I can't say it's a ripoff because, I met you and and I didn't know you met Wellington at a meetup.
not that one. But I did meet him at it was like a New York video producers meetup, and he and I were the only music people there. So kind of like this was like the Spider-Man meme where it's the two guys, Spider-Man pointing at each other, like, wait a
Yeah.
second,
Wait.
like here's somebody else who had an idea to go to where all the clients are, even though you're not actually a New York video producer. So
Oh, right, right. Yeah,
yeah,
you were always in that. You always had that approach, or I don't say approach, but you were hip to that. That angle. Like
I think
I'll go where they are
exactly. I mean, why fish where there's fish? Like, all right, let me. It's a bad example. Why fish where there's
because you want the fish.
why fish where there's fish? Why fish where so many other people are fishing?
Yeah,
Go to where like the actual fish are. Anyway, so
yeah. We get it.
sometimes there's fish at. Never mind. We're not gonna keep going. Uh,
Keep it
so
go. Keep it going.
no, people are already tuned out. So what's going on, man? How's your hustles? How's your 2022? What's on your radar?
Man, I starting the year. I'm scoring a short film, so that's great. I'm always happy to do some music. Like the music is just so hit or miss for me, man. I mean, 2022 was a pretty busy year. I got a lot of work.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I didn't win anything. I got super close to win like two spots. I think both with Nike. And then at the last minute, they were just like, "No, Brian,
Right.
you know the drill,
Yeah.
But I did get some kill fees, so that's like I think about that as like a small license, But
Yeah.
yeah, just couldn't get anything across the line. Um, so this year, I'm starting the year off with scoring, which is exciting. It's a great project. It's my first time working with this producer, but the director is somebody I've worked with a couple times. Calvin Walker. I'm gonna have him actually on the podcast soon. So yeah, that's it. That on the music side, that's it. I'm really thinking about like kind of trying to build a library. I've thought about this already, and I started and I just bailed. But building a library for like a lo-fi library for people to use in like reels and social, because the other side of what I do is I make social media content, so I can use my own content as a means to push out the tracks.
Yeah.
Because if you make a reel and it blows up, then people will use that sound. Like there's a new track out. I just made a video today. There's a song. It's like drink water and mind my business. Hilarious. It's like dance hall. It's killing. It's hilarious, but it's also dope. And but the videos for the track push the track. So now the track is blowing up because of the reels that people are doing using it. So it's like that kind of mentality. I'm trying to like use both of the things that I'm good at. And so I think that like there's a big space for vloggers, people who do travel vlogging, people that do reviews of restaurants and hotels. Almost everything I see on YouTube as well, they always have lo-fi music playing. Whether they're selling like luxury or they're showing like a luxury apartment or they're doing like a new restaurant, it's always lo-fi under the bottom. That's the bet right now. I feel that everyone's reaching for. So I want to make a library, maybe 100 tracks of lo-fi. Maybe, I don't know if I want to pitch it to anybody or if I just want to kind of do it myself, but that's what I'm working on. How about you, man?
That's great. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, considering that you're, a place where people can hear it and theoretically hit you up like, hey, what's that track in your, in your video? I'm interested in using it. We do original music for ads, TV, all kinds of visual media. I'm a composer also, but it feels like of late, it's been more project management. Earlier last year or a couple months ago, we did something. We did a cover. It's been a lot of covers. We did in 21. We did a cover of "Baby Got Back" for a hot dog brand that was rapped by Vanilla Ice called "Baby Got Buns."
Hold on. Let me see if keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Are you allowed to show it?
It doesn't technically exist on the internet anymore. So,
no.
But it was kind of hilarious. Maybe, there's nowhere to, but that was a thing. We did a cover of.
I think I found it.
Oh no, you're not supposed to have found it.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, I know you didn't look that hard, but like, theoretically,
well, if it's not supposed to be findable, you need to talk to whoever you need to talk to because that thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore what you said. So, yes, that happened. We did a cover of "I'm Coming Out" for Bloomingdale's. We're doing another one for Bloomingdale's right now. A lot of stuff for MTV's library, and we just did some stuff for GNC, and we did something for a sound design for the U.S. Air Force. Lots of like these little things that come and go, and then some other bigger projects that I can't talk about right now, but we're exploring different up and coming artists and or existing artists and trying to partner them with brands, the kind of more of the high level conversation where before it ever becomes anything musical. So
got you.
Yeah, it's been a good year or so, and anything under the umbrella of audio post is what I've been doing. So there was an Amazon project we did last year that we casted 20 voice actors in different 5 different countries and 4 languages. That was interesting and unique considering the background that you and I come from, because normally it's like, music and you're just dealing with one animal, but this was a lot of moving parts. So as I've taken on more of these projects, as I've been connected to different communities and ways of operating, which has made it just more interesting. So I'm thankful.
So good year last year, and it sounds like this year's off to a great start.
Yeah, and I don't know. I never know what's coming because of how I've positioned, the company and the different services that we're taking on. Again, when I was just in a room making music all day, it was like, all right, library search, occasional TV brief. Okay, this is for this show, blah, blah, blah. Maybe an original demo here and there, but it was a lot of that. And now it's like, we have this full soup to nuts audio post. You got to get this voice actor. Okay, we're looking for an original music. Okay, we're looking for a license of a big song. Okay, we want to do a cover of a big song. Okay, we want to partner with an artist. So it definitely has kept my head moving on a swivel. There's boilerplates. You could say, okay, we did it this way the previous time, but when you're dealing with different personalities, it just opens itself up to different types of politics with every job, and playing. But I think the biggest thing is just play nice in the sandbox with everybody, and that's you throw in a couple of corny jokes, and you try to just leave people with a smile and make them come back. Hopefully,
I mean, it's inspiring for me to see like how how far your company's gone. I mean, you know, you were a dope composer. I've always admired the hustle. You seem to have like the ability to really like get out there and make things happen. Where I felt one of my flaws early on was waiting for people to call me, checking emails, hoping that, you know, I would get these calls. And you always seem like, hey, I'm making stuff happen, man. You know what I mean? Like I'm calling people. And I remember you gave me that advice about how many touch points you need before you can actually get a conversion.
Yeah, I mean, that was, well, you figured it out too. I mean, you got all these different hustles. I think even before I had the varying business lines. I mean, with your podcast line, I didn't get it until you spelled it out for me about all the different casual brands. When you first told me I'm going to launch, this casual brand and we're going to have all different pages based on interest groups, I was like, I'm like, that sounds good, but I didn't really get it. And then you executed, and I was like, oh shit, I get it now. The casual brand, the casual jazzer, the casual beat maker, the casual producer, the casual grappler. And these are all pages that you've grown significant followings from. So let's give it up for Brian. Yay.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, but it's
go.
like most people didn't get it. Some people still don't really get it because they're not really aware of the whole umbrella. They're like, they know about the jazzer, or they know about the grappler, or they know about the producer, and ultimately it's authority. I'm ambitiously seeking to build authority in a lot of fields, but I have to start with what I know best first, which is grappling. I'm passionate about. I can watch that. I can talk about that. I can look at that. And now with the podcast, I'm being able to start bringing in people. Like, so this podcast is going to be released on the casual producer. And it's done in association with the casual producer. On Wednesday, I did an interview with a jazz pianist and a jazz educator. That's going to be in association with jazz education. So I'm bringing in more authority to build the authority of the brand and the community. And so, it's a hustle, man. It's a hustle though. It's a lot of posting.
I imagine
it's a ton of posting.
Definitely.
I think it's funny, man, because the way I got into social, I had a homie, OJ. I don't know if you've ever met him or I've ever like linked you to, but he's a dope trumpet player. He played with Kanye. He taught me everything I know about like production. Him and this guy named Montique, but he was getting into beat licensing. And so I was like, all right, well, let me check it out, because I'm not going to do something if I don't do research. So I was looking into it, and I was like, okay, this could be something, it could be some income. And then I was like, but wait a minute. How much are the people that are making these YouTube videos? And I was like, oh, wait, no. That's what I need to be doing. And then you know what I mean? Like content creators. I was like, that's the money. And then I thought, well, but YouTube is very difficult. Instagram, that's accessible. You know what I mean? It was right on the edge before it started getting crazy. And so that's how I kind of got into it,
Yeah, now you're a metrics guy, and can talk about it all day.
I don't know if I'm not a met. I hate analytics. I mean, I have to know them, but I'm a creative. I like coming up with creative ideas. Or like, so you're working with artists, right? How can we figure out how to take like a new trending sound and they can use it to like promote themselves? You know what I mean? It's a little trickier with artists because they have their own music, but coming up with creative ways to like use things to express themselves, that's kind of the vibe. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Are you doing, I saw recently you did something with TikTok, right? Or for TikTok, I should say.
Yeah, that was a couple of months ago. That was through, a supervision company. And, they basically were like, we want to put 3 genres into one single track. We want to start with something that sounds like a hip hop track, and then that evolves into a country track. But we also want to keep the hip hop element, so it sounds like a remix. And then all of a sudden it evolves into a sea shanty. So it's not like they were like, oh, give us a hip hop track, then give us a country track, then give us a sea shanty. It's like, no, how can you weave them seamlessly together? So I'm like, that sounds fucking nutty.
How did you do that? Did you get multiple composers, or did you find one person who just has an amazing range?
Um, that I mean, I wish I could. I had the budget to get a million guys on that one, but that was just me and Sarah Elizabeth Haynes,
Wow.
um, who did an amazing job with the string section. Um, and immediately I thought of her because at the time she was one of the hosts of my clubhouse, or the clubhouse that we were doing, called So What's the Deal with Film, TV, Ad Music, and she talked about being, getting more involved in the ad space. And I was like, hey, I got this, this thing that you might be perfect for, because she's a string player. She plays with Hamilton as a viola and violin player, and she's incredible. And I was like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this thing. But I personally wrote that. I started with, I was like, what is the one thing that could absolutely stay, if that, and it wouldn't sound weird. So I started with the drums. And then from there, it was like, all right, cool. Then we'll just use the texture of these drums and let them carry throughout. And the tempo changed a lot throughout the whole thing, because, it was weird. It's weird to have a sea shanty at a hip hop tempo. But then it was just, okay, fill in the melodic blanks,
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Here's like some scratching, blah, 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 corny, so to make it so that it was palatable. Oh, this sounds like hip hop. And then all of a sudden it evolved into this country thing, and then the sea shanty. So that was an interesting one. But
I thought it was cool. I thought it was very cool. I remember seeing it. I thought, oh, that's dope. I thought you probably had to have at least two composers, but that's really interesting to find out that you did that yourself.
Well, I mean, thank you. I really, I thought that, when you bring in a live player who's just like really, really good, it just makes it nice. I mean, you're a live player, so it's different. I'm not. I'm a studio rat, and I can't play anything other than keys.
Keys.
But I wouldn't even call myself a piano player. I'm like a guy who I can fake it pretty well, good enough. And then, okay, if we need to get a real person on here. But like, when you get a live player, it just brings the thing to fucking life. And so I had this stupid idea that I just mocked up. I'm like, hey, using my fake Spitfire patches, Sarah, do something with it. And she took it, and I'm like, oh, okay, game over. This brings it home. Because it was the last of the three things. It was like, it just made for an epic finale.
That's awesome.
And so it could sound like multiple people.
So you casually mentioned something, but I want to talk about it for a little bit, because it was like my favorite thing for a minute. Your clubhouse. What's the deal with film and TV? That place was lit. Like, you had those things going every Wednesday, right?
Yeah, man. Yes, we did have I was like, what day of the week was it?
It was Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday nights. It started. I first learned about Clubhouse. I forget who put me onto it, but I just discovered it one night, and I think Kevin McCove, our mutual friend Kevin McCove, put me onto it, and I checked it out. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And this is at a time when the vaccines weren't really out. This is the end of 2020, at least when I discovered it, the beginning of 21. People still weren't really going places, but they were itching to get out and connect with others.
Yeah.
And then, Wellington and David Abelson, this other editor from ABC, we all just got together and we're like, we should make a room about our business. And I took the Seinfeld, the joke, so what's the deal? That whole persona, and just like injected that into that levity into, what was otherwise a topic-driven room.
With some pretty heavy cats in there.
Yeah.
You had some pretty heavy cats in there.
Yeah. Well, that's what made Clubhouse fun, is you could be in a room with like, a BT, or like, Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, or like, like The Game, the rapper, would just pop up randomly, like in rooms. You
Yeah.
could be next to people. Just Blaze was there all the time, and they, it wouldn't be weird, So
Yeah.
that, I think that was crazy, and you just didn't even know who was going to pop up in the room because everything was so free flowing,
Yeah.
and you type in a word, oh, advertising, or advertising music, and boom, I find 12 rooms on the topic, and there's real people in here that I can listen to on said topic. And by the way, it's audio only, so I don't need to like put on clothes or even, get in front of a camera. I can just casually listen and chime in while I'm driving, while I'm like,
Right.
going to
Yeah.
get food. So I think that part of it made it very intimate. And there's still people that are running with it, but for a minute we had good, you know, um, people coming out to that. I mean, you were in there,
Yeah. I came a couple times. You know what I mean? I wonder why. I wonder why it for me. It kind of came. It was huge, and then it was like Omicron. It came in, and it was everywhere, and then it's just equally as fast went away.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people on it, but you're not wrong. I mean, that was my, commitment to it as well. I think right around June, as right before Delta started surging, and the vaccines were like available to people, and everyone was like, yes, we beat COVID. We were inside for a year and a half, and now we're getting out into the world. And like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be in front of, like listening to somebody chit chat. Like, it's not like I'll never look at a phone ever again, but for that moment, I think everyone was going YOLO. It was like,
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. That's a very good point, because they let us out of the cage, and we were like, oh,
yeah,
that sucked.
there was
I mean,
like 3 weeks. It was like 3 weeks. I
no, it was
remember
more. It was more than 3 weeks. It was like
the
a
time
month and a
between the
half.
first vaccines becoming available and like the majority of people our age, having gotten vaccinated. It was like the beginning or the end of April. And I think by June, everybody had pretty much gotten it, and then
The vax you're
Delta
talking
came
about.
like 3 weeks later and just fucking killed everybody's joy.
I know that Delta was out. I went to see Chappelle in June, I think.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and Delta was out. It was everywhere. And in Florida, but in Florida of all places.
Uh-huh.
And it was wild, man, because it was at a casino. And so like if you were going to go to the concert, you had to test before you could get in, like that day. But it was really weird because I tested, and then I went into the casino where everybody was just like maskless, drinking, having a good time. So it was kind of like, well, the test doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like if you test, you should have had to quarantine, or like they should have had like a part of the casino like designated for the people going to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could just go out and hang out with somebody and like take it in and then take it right into the show with me, which I'm positive. But you know what? The crazy thing is, Chappelle said he never had anybody, um, in the audience at least, get COVID. Which is
Yeah,
crazy.
totally. It's the thing all the live performers are struggling with now,
Yeah, yeah. It's sad, man.
or they were. And now I think we're getting to a place where, all right, let's just get over, this vaccine mandate that's trying to get pushed through isn't happening. Let's just get on with life. Let's
Yeah.
deal with it and know that, like, it's always going to be in the background,
Right.
like the flu, but maybe we'll just be a little bit more protected. At least that's been the general consensus. I mean, we were always trying to get back to a place of, normalcy, but
Yeah.
I think some people have just had it. There's the fatigue is no longer fatigue. It's like, all right, cool. It's a reasonable possibility that I'm going to get it. Cool. I'm vaxxed. I'm triple vaxxed, whatever, or I'm not vaxxed at all. But now I can't get forced to doing it, depending on where you live. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
look here.
interesting.
Go ahead, go.
No, what are you gonna say?
Say here, you can't even get into a restaurant without showing your card. But like, our Sarah, my friend Sarah Elizabeth Haynes, she plays in Hamilton. They're in Ohio, and you know, most other theaters where she played around the nation require a mask. In Ohio, nobody's wearing a mask,
Yeah.
and forget the vax card. And then other places, it's like just wear a mask, but only when you're eating. So there's every state's got different regulations.
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest failures of the government to not do it unified, and be like flexible. So like I don't think we should do everybody does the same thing. I think there should be a uniform guideline to like how you should address it. So if your numbers are this is how you should be behaving. If your numbers are this way, then you should be behaving differently. You know what I mean? Like if the numbers are going crazy in New York, then you got to address it. If there's no virus really in Texas, then there's no reason for them to act like they're in New York, you know? But it's just like it's either you're all in or you're all out. That
In
seems
theory, that's great. And I think that people tried to do that, but every state's governor, had a different idea about what their constituents wanted, because because everybody's got a different opinion about whether or not this thing is a real threat and what the real threat is. Some people looked at the real threat as the threat to the economy, and we got to keep businesses open, and we got to keep the money coming in people's pockets. And other people looked at it and prioritized safety. I mean, in a perfect world, you got to protect both.
Yeah.
But I think that the message got lost, and and vaccines became a political thing.
Yeah,
and,
that was unfortunate.
So you had every governor treating it different, and so here we are.
It was so interesting, man. Like, it was so interesting how fast the divide became apparent. You know what I mean? Like, because when it first happened, I was super optimistic and like, this is going to be a moment. You know what I mean? Like Independence Day, we're going to like all come together as a nation, as a planet.
In the beginning too. Not just when the vaccine came out, but like
that's what I'm talking about, the beginning, not the vaccine. Okay. Yeah, when I was talking about at the beginning, because it's all of us against this virus. Like we're all looking out for each other, and we're gonna stay at home. We're gonna wipe our groceries down.
Man,
to save the planet.
One day you're gonna be like, hey, kid, I remember when I was your age and I used to wash every package and that came in the door to protect my parents. And I went to the grocery store like in a hazmat suit.
I remember coming to New York because I stayed in Florida for the first five months of the pandemic, which was awful.
How was that?
It was awful. It was because like I have always thought I'm gonna live in New York and then eventually I'll move back to Florida, because I'm a Floridian. But man, I felt so out of place in Florida. Like all my friends came down on the line on the other side. It was like, no, this is terrible. The government's terrible. Masks are terrible. And I'm like, dang. Like, I mean, one of my good friends, he's a gym owner. And so I got it. He was very worried about his gym that he had worked really hard to build was going to close.
Yeah.
And so when DeSantis came and said, hey, we're opening it up, you know what? We're going to just go through it. I can understand why that was like good for small business owners, people that didn't get a lot of money from the government. But at the same time, it just, I don't know, man. It was really uncomfortable. It got really awkward because you started just to realize that, oh man, some of the people that I've known all my life have some pretty radical thoughts, man, But I think, like you said, I think it was a little bit of both sides responding to each other. You know, the right getting hype, which made the left get more hype, which made the right get even more hype. And now it's like it feels like everything's just kind of out of control and people can't have like a simple conversation.
Yeah, and there's shades of gray, but I think here's where I think, you know, the rub is. You got a lot of people that are there. I feel like in society you have a handful of people, not a lot, that are all the way this way. Right. And then you have another handful of people. It's not as many as you think that are all the way this way. And there's all these people in the middle that don't necessarily feel like, oh, well, it's all the way this way or all the way that way. But because of the two-party system, you're forced to absolutely subscribe. All right, I guess if I'm mostly this way, I gotta support them no matter what, right? Because I gotta, you know, and so you have this polarization. There's no like option middle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're, for example, you know, anti-vax, or I should say, if you're for the vaccine, there's no, and you're trying to like, you know, talk about this gray area. If you're not in full support of said vaccine, you know, you can be misconstrued as an anti-vaxxer just because maybe you want to get your kid back to school or whatever. So yeah, I do think that this gray area kind of got left out. And it's like, you know, because you're forced, it's like just because you want to get things back to normal doesn't mean you're an anti-vaxxer, right? Like, right. And there's a lot of this, you know, these people in this, you know, who will call them centrist, that are sort of like, you know, getting shat on because they're not one way or the other.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting because I do think that the biggest group, like you said, is the people in the middle. It's just the loudest people are the ones on the edge.
Right. And you're forced to take a side because of said loud people, you know, and maybe because of where you live and people around you with peer pressure, you know.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
It's really interesting. I found that over the pandemic, my business grew. You know what I mean? And even music. I did more work in music over the last year than the last year and a half. Maybe not so much in 2020, but definitely 2021. I feel like the industries are shifting to. I was talking to I'm trying to like pivot and walk across the field. I'm just going to go to I feel like there's a change happening right now in our country. Like what we're seeing with the NFL. I don't know if I know you're very much into basketball, but I don't know if you're also in the NFL either.
Tangentially, I'm not, you know, I know enough, but yeah, basketball, I know inside and out. So
in the NFL right now, Flores, a head coach for Miami, is suing the NFL. I don't know if you know that.
I do. He's actually the brother of a kid that I went to school with.
Oh, wow.
At Bucknell. Yeah. His name was Peter Flores. You know, he went to shout out to the Bucknell Bison. So anyway, he played football. The brother, Peter, played football for Bucknell, and everybody knew about Brian. I think he was at some of the games, but anyway, so I'm aware of the situation for that reason.
But I think it's like a symptom of something that's happening in our society. Like there's all these systems that are being kind of exposed. You know, this is a funny thing. Everyone kind of like laughed at, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people laughed at Neil Young when he said, pull my music because I don't want to be on the same platform as Joe Rogan. And then Spotify like, all right, bet, say less. We're rocking with Joe Rogan. Here's your music, you know? And people were like, well, he lost. But then Joni Mitchell joined him. And then next thing you know, Spotify is losing $3 billion and Joe Rogan is making an apology and Spotify's releasing statements. And I say that to say, if musicians are watching, what Neil Young just did and what Joni Mitchell did, they would realize that they are extremely powerful if with their actual work. What do you think about that?
I think that's a complex issue with I mean, I guess there's a lot of layers there, with the Spotify situation. Um, I do think that artists have the power, but I also think it's unrealistic for an up and coming musician. I just saw somebody post it's unrealistic for an up and coming musician to pull their music from the platform because that's how they get a lot of people to discover them. And the truth
Sure.
is, no amount of artists leaving the platform will, you know, I mean, it's Spotify is a big monster that is more of a content provider than they are specifically music. And that's why they decided to dump all that money to Joe Rogan. Sure, they started out as a music driven platform, but you know, um, they are content now. Michelle Obama has a podcast. What does she have to do with music? Nothing. So they know that there's earballs on what they're doing, and it became bigger than just music. Um, I think there's also the problem of too much content on Spotify for anyone to make a real dent in if I'm going to pull the content from the platform and something else is going to rise in its place. The real, I mean, because there's also the problem of art that there's the problem of the censorship, and then there's the problem of the artist not making enough money, right?
I don't find that to be a problem at all.
The artist not being paid enough money. See, I'm with you.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I mean, sure, Spotify could pay more money to the content creators, but they paid out, and they're no hero, but they paid
No.
out 23 billion in over, 20 years or whatever it is since they've been in existence, to artists. The problem is in the hierarchy with the labels and the artists themselves. And the problem of there just being too many artists, it's like there's just too, Carrie originally posted some reblogged. They're uploading what, like 2 million tracks a week or something, or
I don't know.
year. I mean, it's like 60,000 tracks a week. It's whatever it is. It's a stupid number. Because of, low barriers to entry, because it's so easy to be a musician, a music. I don't want to say easy to be I didn't say good, but it's easy to be a music producer. You can now join this sea of other musicians who can upload their music, and it became more the ones that were getting attention. It became more than just like, oh, is this a good music track? Am I latching onto the person's personality of some kind, right? Like, is there something about this character that I'm latching it onto? So
just really quick, it says here that Spotify uploads 60,000 tracks a day.
A day, right? So it's a lot, right? How does anybody break through? In a market where you're competing against that. And of course, cream is going to rise to the top. But even if cream is right, there's only so much cream that can rise to the top. And you have that, but also it's different because when you and I grew up and you had records and really CDs, and then before that it was tapes, and there was just less choice. You weren't fighting with other media, right? Like, it's like, okay, you go outside, maybe you play a video game or two, you play a sport, or you listen to music, maybe they're movies or books. Now you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with Hulu, you're competing with all of Amazon Prime, all the video game platforms. Then there's you could be a YouTube creator. There's so many different areas, of entertainment that you're fighting with. It's no longer that you're just fighting against other musicians. You're fighting against entertainment and tech as a whole. So it's I don't blame Spotify for the payout. I do, the content censorship. I don't think I don't know if I have an opinion on that yet.
I do.
But I would love to hear yours.
No, I don't care. You know what I mean? I feel the same way about mandates. If you want to do mandates, do mandates. If you don't want to do mandates, don't do mandates. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't want to be in a place that does mandates, I don't live there. If I don't want to be in a place that doesn't do mandates, I don't live there. If I don't want to support someone I don't believe that. I hate this idea of overreaching. So I don't like what Joe Rogan is saying, even though I'm not probably listening to what Joe Rogan is saying. So I want to stop him from doing something. You know what I mean? Why don't you just stop listening? But the reason why they don't just stop listening is because they're not listening to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's like they're trying to have influence where they shouldn't have influence. I don't love the idea of censoring somebody unless, they're saying something that's crazy. But even
I guess
then,
that is the debate, right?
Right. What's crazy?
Is what he's saying crazy? And that is,
it's tough. It's tough. I love the rule of kind of worry about what's in your sphere. I don't like what Joe Rogan is saying. I stopped listening to him. But you have to, I feel like people want to get something without getting it. You, like, at the beginning of what you were saying, you were like, it's a lot to ask up and coming artists to take their music off of a platform because that's their way of getting discovered. Yeah, well, if you want change, it costs something. You know what I mean? That's the big difference between like civil rights and people who got change in like the 60s and 70s versus like now. We want to just change our profile picture and say we're all in. You're not all in. You didn't put anything in the table. You haven't put anything in the middle. Using a hashtag or blacking out your screen, while it does help the movement, it's not, you're putting still very little in the middle and wanting to get a maximum return. So, I'm all for it. Like, if they decided, if Spotify decided, hey Joe, we don't like what you're saying, and you need to either make some changes. That's their company. They paid him $100 million to have a say in what he did, and he agreed to do that, right? So, and if they're cool with what he's doing, just like Netflix is cool with what Chappelle's doing, they rock with it.
It's kind of a similar, one is more of a entertainment. I mean, they're both entertainment. I think that's what's getting lost here. It's not like these are the news outlets, right? And then news outlets get it wrong and correct themselves too, but that's another story. So, but similar with the Chappelle thing and the Rogan thing.
Yeah.
So, are they, and then the problem of if they did say some shit that's controversial, are they too big? Is it too much to try and take them down? Is this not even about the principle and more just because of money? Like, yeah. I think that's what's really at stake here. Not the principle. I think you can justify whatever kind of principle you'd like, bend it to whatever your narrative is. In both cases, money.
Yeah.
If Netflix thought that people were going to leave the platform because of the Chappelle controversy, I think they would have axed him.
Yeah.
And I think that Rogan is too big to take him down. I don't think it's about censorship.
No, those are facts.
Yeah. Whether or not they should take him down is a whole different conversation than, what their impetus for their decision making is. And, you can smell that, that goat sheepskin from miles away. I think they stopped making that a sheepskin, right? What is it now? I don't even know.
I don't know either.
We should find out. What is paper? What is money made of? Lambskin? Don't know.
So there's another topic I wanted to talk about, and it's something that we've talked about before. It has nothing to do with Joe Rogan. It does have to do with the business, but diversity in music, because I feel like in music, there it is diverse. It's very diverse. But then on the side of media, in music in media, it does not come close to the diversity that music has on like the artist and record side. And what are some of the things that you've done? Because I know that you are an ally and you fought to have more diversity in music. What are some of the things that you've done, and what are some of the challenges that you've run into?
Yeah, I think that trying to call either a woman or a person of color on every single job is something that I've made a real effort. I haven't followed through in every single case, and I'm still trying. And I say trying like it's still this DNA is hard. I don't want to say this DNA, but the mindset around it is hard to overcome. And what do I say when I mean that? You have in any given, brief, it's like, okay, cool. They're looking for a jazz track, they're looking for a hip hop track. Okay, immediately I'm going to think of these five people, right? And I know these five people are going to deliver. So then it becomes, well, wait a second. There's a reason why I'm thinking of these five people. They've been in the business for as long, and you're leaving out the opportunity to bring up somebody up and coming and somebody new who maybe hasn't had an opportunity to break in because it's an old boys club, a white guy club, and I've benefited from said, you know, uh, club, and I think that waking up and smelling the coffee over time is sort of like maybe a little bit more aware. Hey, okay, not only might I get a better product, by hiring a person of color or a woman, because you and I know it's like 92% white men in our business.
Right.
But I'm also like, or I should say, not only am I helping to fix the problem, but I also might get a better product, a more unique product, something
Right.
depending upon what the genre is. So, you know, again, it's fighting through that mentality of like, well, just because these five people that I called for this beauty ad or whatever, you know, um, just because they're perfect for it doesn't mean that, and I might be taking on a risk by bringing on somebody new, doesn't mean that that's, a justified, risk. Like, sorry, it doesn't mean that it's justified in my head for not bringing on said people. So I think it's fighting those demons within and knowing that there's a greater good from
Yeah.
bringing in the diverse offering and ultimately paving the way so that hopefully a person of color, or a woman, a new person can come in and then other people can grow up and say, wow, oh, look, my mom or, my black dad was in that business, and then hopefully usher in some more culture into, the community, which hopefully can make its way into the advertisements itself.
It's that last point is so on point, because I don't think it's just on the music side. I think it's just in advertising and in media. But
Yeah.
I'm very I'm generally optimistic, but I'm a little pessimistic on this particular thing, because I've seen people make great efforts to increase the diversity of the talent and the labor pool that they're reaching out to and working with. But on the client side, it seems like the closer you get to the end of the road, the last person that you need to say yes, that always tends to be the same type of person. And I don't know if it's on a subconscious level, but I when I hear the things that get picked, I feel like it's a matter of perspective and reference. Where are we coming from? Like if I say to you cookout, and you think about the memories you had of cooking out and grilling, and the feelings that's going to bring into your mind, that's going to be different than the same feelings that I have when I think about a cookout. We're talking about the same exact thing, but we're having different experiences. And so when we write on that same job, if the person at the end of the line is like you, then they're going to resonate with what you've written. And and I struggle with seeing how that can be overcome, because now we're talking about what we need is more people of color and women that are business owners,
business owners and decision makers at the C-suite level.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I don't have enough like data to say it's happening at that level or it's not happening at that level. I'd be willing to say it's not happening fast enough.
Yeah.
If it's happening at all, because you're right. I'm not going to talk about this specific brand, but we worked on a project and, you had, it's talent. There was the track makers, composers, and then there was the talent. And the talent that we pulled in was all Black women. And ultimately what got, we thought we just like nailed it. And because, it was hip hop track, whatever. And, they weren't happy with the end talent. They thought that some of the talent was too aggressive. They thought some of the talent was, just not maybe commercial enough, whatever the hell that means. So we did another round, and they were more happy with the second round. The person who made their way into the spot, one of them is a person of color, the other is not. I don't know why it happened that way. I suspect, there's some of what we're talking about was at play here. It's hard for me to know the exact reasons, but that's all that I can say. And it's one of those things where we did everything like you're saying. We tried to incorporate as much of the diversity as possible. Interestingly enough, said people, in those decision-making chairs are not white men either. So that was also interesting. So I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, it's very complicated. Like it's I know agencies. I think, what is it? Transparency is the name of the agency. Translation, I think, is the name of the agency.
Yeah,
and they don't hire a lot of Black talent, even though they themselves are the
owner of the company is Steve Stout. He's, but I don't know about this.
I mean, it's no shade to him. I mean, he's got a job to do, but I do think that what he can put in the middle is making an effort to always be finding Black talent, because there is talent, and sometimes it's hard for me to say, because I coming from my own personal music, I'm biased, but I do find that there is good Black music available. It's just, it doesn't hit. You know what I mean? It's like, it just doesn't hit. And you always, and then you kind of are in the funky place of like, well, is it just not good enough? But I don't think it's a matter of if it's good enough or not. There are some people that like might be hip hop producers that don't know how to hit certain score points, don't know how to transition into scoring. But I think sometimes it's just so funny, man. I've heard a story, and I'm trying to avoid giving names, of where people like the art that the person was making. They like their tracks, right? They like their music, but they couldn't figure out how to make the music work to the picture. And they're like, this is not working. It's like, well, I feel like that's a failure on the creative side. If you come to something liking it, like if you like Beyonce, right? And then you say, Beyonce, come work on our track, and you can't figure out how to make Beyonce work on the spot, that's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you came to Beyonce for a Beyonce sound, and now you're trying to change it, you know, and get the same impact, but also water it down. And that's a frustrating thing that I've noticed in that process.
Well, it's a funny thing. It's like, right, like, because you have on top of that hurdle of, you have the talent hurdle. Like, can somebody cut the mustard? Nobody wants bad tracks,
Right.
But then there's who's the arbiter of bad?
Absolutely.
Right? It's a little gray, You gotta look at the overall track record of the beholder, right?
Yeah. It's all funny. I mean, I just looked over it. I am so sorry, Ryan. I've taken up so much of your time.
All good.
And
I'm here.
And but I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and I'm definitely gonna have you back on the podcast if you can make some more time for the homie.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, and I'm thankful for our relationship. Thankful that we get to work together, and looking forward to what we can do in the future, man. I know that it's just getting started, homie.
Yes,
Hopefully we can finally play some ball, so I can see these skills that you've been talking about for a minute.
They've been rusting, but I'll still bust your ass. So,
Yo, I'm not gonna talk. I thought for sure I was gonna like starch my little cousin. He's like 15 and he's like 6'2" or something. But still, I'm like, there's no way he's gonna beat me.
Nah.
Put it on me, my man. Put it on me. So I'm not talking any trash.
You're not the 17, 18-year-old kid you are anymore either. Hey, look, I would love to get together for that. So let's figure that out. But thank you for having me on. It's great to see the big things that you're doing, and happy to come back to the casual anytime.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. I'm probably going to drop this in 2 parts because it's like an hour. But to everybody that's made it this far, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. If you're listening on a place where you need to follow. If you're listening where you subscribe, you know what to do. Do what you got to do. And all the people listening on the podcast, we got nothing but love for you. Ryan, really quick before we get out, where can people contact you? How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in your services?
Sure. Definitely hit me up via email, ryan@knockitoutmusic.com. There's hit me on Instagram at knockitoutmusic. Website is knockitoutmusic.com. And I'm happy to extend your car's extended warranty.
I can't believe we didn't get to talk about that. All right, next time.
Sure. We got to leave it there.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks again. And remember, until the next time.